All right. Welcome to the Lower Makefield Township Board of Supervisors meeting for March 18th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I will start with roll call. Supervisor Coyle.
Present.
Supervisor Grenier.
Here.
Supervisor Reese.
Here.
Supervisor Lewis.
Present.
And Supervisor Ross is here. All right. So item 4, community announcements. I will let Supervisor Lewis take it away.
Good evening. And this is a reminder that during this portion of the agenda, residents and youth organizations may call in to make a special announcement or contact the township at admin@lmt.org to request a special announcement to be added to the agenda. The Yardley Farmers Market will be at the Community Center. That's 1550 Oxford Valley Road, Yardley, Pennsylvania, the first and third Saturdays of every month until April 2026 from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So you're definitely going to want to visit the first and third Saturdays of every month, where you can pick up fine cured meats, cheeses, and other things that are being offered by neighbor farmers. Item C, the Lower Makefield Township Police Department invites you to apply for our Citizens Police Academy, a free, interactive program for LMT residents age 18 and older that gives community members a hands-on look at modern policing in Lower Makefield Township. For more information on how to apply, visit the Facebook link that's attached in the agenda. I'm told that you don't get to handle the firearms, just in case you were wondering. Lower Makefield Township will be hosting a Red Cross blood drive on Friday, March 27th, right here from 12 to 5 p.m. in the main room of the Township Building. That's right here, 1100 Edgewood Road. To register, visit redcrossblood.org. And with the sponsor code Lower Makefield, one of the benefits of going online and registering is you can get all those questions out of the way when you're donating blood. You know all the ones they ask you. Did you visit any of these countries that you wish you could have had visited, but you've been too busy to go? Did you have any weird skin grafts, blood transfusions, or any of that stuff, or shared needles with friends? Those are all easy questions. You can answer them online so that when you get to the blood drive, it's that much faster and you're that much closer to the fine cookies and drinks that they give you after. And that's all the announcements I have.
Thank you, John. All right, item number 5, public comment on non-agenda items. If you have any comments, please come up to the podium, state your name, and if you're a resident of the township, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes and do not repeat previous comments. Is there any public comment? Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Eric Stark. I was recently appointed to the committee that is planning the 25th anniversary ceremonies of 9/11 at the Garden of Reflection, which is within Memorial Park. I am also the vice chair of the board of the 9/11 Memorial Garden of Reflection, Inc., nonprofit organization that houses the Remembrance Fund endowment that now reimburses the township for all the maintenance costs, basic maintenance costs of the memorial, and will do so, intended to do so in perpetuity. So we have a great partnership, we feel, with the township, but we recently applied for a permit to have the evening ceremony on September 11th, like we have had now for 20-some years. And we received an email response telling us that our permit was denied to have the evening ceremony. And I just want to read from this notification, so it's in the minutes here. With respect to the proposed Remembrance and Light Ceremony, the township will not be approving a park use permit for a Friday evening ceremony on September 11th, 2026. Rosh Hashanah begins at sundown that evening, and we must be mindful of the holiday and its significance to members of our community when scheduling events in township facilities. Accordingly, the township will move forward with scheduling the evening remembrance ceremony for Thursday, September 10th, with a Friday morning ceremony also taking place on September 11th in recognition of the 25th year remembrance of September 11th. Organization and coordination of these events will occur through the township-appointed committee, which I am a member of, to ensure consistency, proper planning, and alignment of resources. So our point for being here this evening is to say that we would like to have reconsideration of that decision to deny our permit to have an evening ceremony on September 11th. We have never had a ceremony that was not on September 11th. And to suggest that we should have it on September 10th, I think would be confusing for our community. You know, we're expecting possibly 2,000 people at this evening ceremony. And if we move it to September 10th, the night before, I suspect that maybe 1,000 will come that evening, and the other 1,000 will come on Friday, September 11th, to have no ceremony there. So we're asking, we want to be respectful, of course, of people of faith that if their religion prevents them from participating in gatherings during a high holiday, certainly understand that. I think it's more restrictive, perhaps I'm wrong, that it's for celebrations, and this is not a celebration. This is a memorial service for members of the community, our community, that we lost on September 11th. And that'll be exactly 25 years after that. And I think our community deserves to have the Remembrance and Light ceremony on the evening of September 11th and not September 10th. And I think it's best for our community as well. So that's our stance. So we would like to appeal the decision. I'm not sure what body of the township made this decision to deny our permit. If someone could explain that, what the process was, and now what the process is for appealing that decision, so that we could move forward with this.
David,
What's that?
is there an appeal process? Like, I don't,
Could we even step back a little bit? So you're on this committee that the township has set up for the 25th commemoration, right? Where that committee is supposed to be planning these events as a committee.
Right.
Has the committee met yet? Is this coming from the committee, or is this coming from a certain group that wants to have a ceremony separate from what the committee's planning? That's what I'm trying to figure out, because I haven't heard anything from the committee.
The
I'm not the
committee has,
liaison, so I'm not
the
familiar.
committee has not been assembled. I don't know that there's been a chair assigned to the committee that would pull the committee together. All I know, and all these folks know, Ellen and Beth Ann are also members of the committee, but no one's contacted us to say, okay, our first meeting is next Wednesday at 4 o'clock. So we haven't had any meetings. We do have a group that, because it takes time, many months to plan an event like this, we do have a group of people that traditionally have planned these kind of ceremonies that have been working on an evening ceremony.
Dave, normally Katie, David's admin assistant, schedules all of the committee meetings. Where are we at with that?
Yeah, so I don't know, Judy, if you had an opportunity to see your email at this point. I believe she did reach out today.
I think she reached out today. I haven't had a chance to answer her.
Okay.
I think we're still looking for other committee members. We haven't picked, there's not a chair appointed or whatever yet at
Sure.
all.
I think our general suggestion would be to try to get the committee together within the next month or so,
Right.
recognizing the
takes
time
time.
that it's going to take. Her initial outreach was to Judy as the liaison supervisor to the committee to try to just get a general idea of your availability. So if you could get back
I'll
to her.
get back with her by tomorrow.
We would be in touch with the committee members to schedule that initial meeting.
To be honest, I've done the morning ceremony for about 15 years, basically with Parks and Rec and myself. It does take time. I'm contacting people, getting things together. It takes time. But we also have had evening ceremonies that are more family-friendly and low-key, that have not taken 6 months to plan, and they've been extremely well attended. So I think we're okay with, I'll get Katie with my availability, which is pretty open, and we'll set up a meeting within the next maybe 2 to 3 weeks, 2 weeks,
Yeah, I mean, that was the,
Yeah.
that's the,
early April.
that's the intent, yep.
But we still would like to know, how did this decision come about? Is there an ordinance within the township that prevents gatherings during high holidays or something? What's the basis of this decision of the denial of our permit?
First of all, the planning should be going through this committee, first and foremost. The committee hasn't met. People are doing things separate from the committee. That we have, I know that's not how it's
Committee
been.
hasn't been assembled yet, and we
Well,
still...
hold on, time out for a second. We've done the interviews. We have, what, 6, I don't want to say 6 or, like 5 or 6 people now?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have
a full complement of people,
enough
so
of
you
a
need-
complement to commence the
We
work.
do now,
agreeing-
but no one has pulled, the
Right,
township hasn't done anything to pull a committee
It
together.
needs to happen. I agree with you 100%. That needs to happen ASAP. But all of the planning needs to go through the committee.
It will, once the committee
Right.
meets.
So that's why I'm confused why permit applications were put in ahead of the committee even meeting and discussing
That's what it
anything.
is, right.
So that may be a way to address your
One
concern.
reason is that we were
Let me finish, please.
tipped off that
Let me
it might
finish,
be
please.
denied.
I don't know what you're talking about there, but anytime we put a committee together to plan events,
Yeah.
that means the committee reports to the board, then the board has to, anything we're doing, not just this, but anything we're doing, the committees meet, they give a recommendation, they vote to have a public meeting, they make a recommendation to the board votes, yada, 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 right?
Right.
None of that's happened yet. It needs to happen very soon, to your
Right.
point. So I would, suggestion is let the committee meet, have that discussion, and let the committee as a group vote to make a recommendation to the board about how to proceed, like we would with any other committee. That's why it's been set up in the first place.
Well, I still think I have a valid question. How was this decision made and by whom?
David?
I mean, again, it was our, yeah.
Yeah,
it was just-
Dave, I can help you out
Yeah,
here.
pl-
It was a
please.
decision of the Board of Supervisors, ultimately, right?
It was?
This body as a whole, right, has the purview over,
Right.
any uses for public land within the township. At this time, I agree with Dan, the most appropriate thing to do is to go through the township sanctioned planning process and come forward. I will say personally, living in a Jewish household, that Rosh Hashanah is a very, very special day, and there are commandments to do things at certain times, which may not be compatible with a evening remembrance service. So I'd love to see the work of the committee come forward and to look at recommending options that can be compatible with the needs of the large Jewish population of the township and of the very, very solemn duty to remember those within this township, the state, and this country who gave their lives on 9/11. So
How do we do both of those things on
I think-
September 11th?
I think,
Challenge.
I don't want this to be a contentious discussion. I think that in a small setting, it's, that committee is a great way to have those conversations. I'd be more than happy to have a one-on-one conversation with you after this meeting or at any time to talk through how we do both of those things. There are plenty of ways that on September 11th, the township can recognize all of those things that we need to recognize throughout that day. I understand that there has historically been an evening ceremony that has occurred on 9/11, but it is not the only way to recognize and memorialize. So I think that we can all agree that the township should expedite the first meeting of the 9/11 Memorial Commission and make sure they have the space and time to work through these things and make thoughtful recommendations back to the board. And I do appreciate the way that you've approached this thoughtful conversation as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, the Board of Supervisors made the decision to deny the permit, and that's in the meeting minutes of a Board of Supervisors meeting?
That's not in the minutes of a public meeting?
Oh,
No, first, it's a township asset, right? And the township sets the rules as to who gets permits. It's not necessarily subject to a public meeting decision as to permit approvals. If that were the case, this meeting would be, instead of a couple hours, would be days.
And that's why I'm asking who
Right.
made the
Yeah,
decision.
so we have staff.
How is the decision
Right,
made?
so we have staff folks who make a recommendation, and before the email was sent out, we were all said, okay, is this okay? And the entire board said, yeah, this is okay. I think it's reasonable for the board to say, hey, this is a high holiday, and we think it's best to have the evening ceremony the night before. I'm not aware, and again, I may be wrong in the history on this, but in cases where September 11 has fallen on a holiday, like a high holiday for Jewish folks, I'm not aware. Has that happened before?
Yes, it has. In 2018, the morning ceremony, September 11th fell on the Saturday of Rosh Hashanah, and there was and we have photos, and
Right,
Judy,
so-
you were there, you and Gary were there.
We were not there on Rosh Hashanah. I can guarantee you, if it was Rosh Hashanah, we were in synagogue.
Yeah, so I think
There was a ceremony during Rosh Hashanah.
It was a
wasn't the
Saturday
evening.
ceremony.
I didn't
but
yield
not-
respectfully, I didn't yield the floor to anyone, right? So what I'm trying to communicate to you is the township makes decisions, right? Not all decisions are subject to votes in public session. There are laws that determine what kinds of decisions come before the board. There are rules, for example, in terms of things like right to know, whether we're allowed to have discussion on certain items in public, how we can meet with people. There are all kinds of laws. This is well within the right of the township to make that decision. And it's not a decision that, I can appreciate folks who want it on September 11th that evening, but I also have to be appreciative of the general community as well. We have to really think about all members of faith within our community.
Sure.
And also, as this event will largely be a pretty significant event within the township, given its size, it's very possible, and I'm not sure, I'm not on the committee, I'm not focusing on this, but in terms of this, there's a chance the governor may appear. I don't know that the governor would appear on the night of Rosh Hashanah, given, my sense about this is we want to make sure we have an inclusive event for everyone. And that's where the decision comes from, right? And I think it's a reasonable request. The committee hadn't met, and there was a posit for a permit. The whole process here is that this is not a permitted process. This is a township event. The township drives what happens in the event. So it's not I'm getting a permit for an event. This is the township's event, both the evening and the morning ceremony. So the township gets to choose when that event occurs. And I think that's a reasonable request. If, when the committee meets, you still feel strongly about it, then by all means, I'm not sure, the township, there's not an appeal process, right? It's not an appealable decision. So I'm not sure I can give you a process of appeal when there is, and I'm not the lawyer here, but my LSAT score, by the way, top LSAT score. And I took one law school course at Columbia, I got an A. Go ahead.
That qualifies you to
There we go.
to speak on these matters. No, there's not a formal appeal process that is in place or will be in place. It is something that the board, at their purview, could reconsider once the committee does meet and a recommendation is made to the board. Not promising that the outcome will be any different. However, as suggested and as recommended by this board to you, that the committee form, make a decision, make a recommendation, bring it back to the board, and they could reconsider if they so choose.
And just to answer your question, John, we were told that we need to have a permit for any event that's in, we've always needed a permit in the past for every ceremony that we've had. So we were told, to apply for the permit, and we applied,
Right.
and we got an official notice that we were denied that permit. So there's obviously a
I think
process.
what's different, though, this year is
There's obviously a
the
process.
townships.
Yeah,
Excuse
there's,
me?
yes.
Yeah,
That's the
the difference.
What is it?
The difference is this is the township's event. It's the entity that is the township running the event. It's not an independent.
It's actually our partnership, I would say, John, between the board of the 9/11 Memorial Garden of Reflection, Inc.,
Right.
and the township in our public-private partnership.
Is there an
It has
agreement
been
to
working
that
very well.
effect?
No.
What's that?
Is there some contractual agreement that indicates that requires us to, the township to have, that offers folks the chance to set dates and times? There's no agreement.
There's nothing in the agreement
Right.
to that
So, okay,
effect.
then there's nothing.
Is there an
limiting the township.
ordinance in the township that prevents events happening on high Jewish holidays?
There is not. No, in
Okay.
fact.
Is there a
there's-
policy?
pardon me,
Is there a policy in the
hold on.
township? Or is it a practice
Would
or
you,
a policy?
respectfully, sir, and you're past your 3 minutes, if you look at the consent agenda items, right, that's the next one. What do you see on consent agenda item 6G?
I don't see it. Can you read it to me?
Okay, it is cancel the Board of Supervisors meeting scheduled for April 1st, 2026. I believe, and again, I believe that's Passover, right? And so the township has never had township meetings on Passover,
Or
right?
Rosh Hashanah, yeah.
Or Rosh Hashanah. So it has a long history of not having, and we also don't have meetings on Christmas Eve or Christmas or Easter either, right? And for folks of my faith, that would be troubling, right? If, for example, it was on, Easter Sunday, for example.
Christmas Day.
So what I'm trying to say is the township's saying, okay, we're organizing the event. This is the township's event. These are the dates. I guess I'm flummoxed as to why the board has being formed, and yet there was a request for a permit, and I think it was clearly understood that this was a township event. That why would we have a committee if someone else was going to organize?
We were told that we needed a permit, that all events in the township,
the
whether
best
it's a
of my
township
knowledge,
event.
I think it was
So
clearly
this is new
communicated.
news. You're saying if it's a township event, there's no permit
No, because the
required?
township is the requester. Yeah, so there would be no permit required.
All right, with that,
So why wouldn't we just go ahead and
Can I just
schedule
make a
it?
correction?
I think
Why
we're
wouldn't we
at
just go
time.
ahead
Yeah,
and
we are
schedule it for
definitely-
September 11th?
Excuse me one moment, sir. Judy?
I have a correction for you. In 2018, Yom Kippur began at nightfall on Sunday, September the 9th. It ended at nightfall, as it got dark, on Tuesday, September 11th. So when that program was done on September 11th, during the day, I was not there, but that evening I was able to be there because it was sunset. It was,
Okay.
All right,
But
well-
but the event happened.
Sir,
I
The
don't-
event happened during Rosh Hashanah.
I will tell you,
Judy.
from about 2015 and
So there's a precedent.
No, I ran the
Sir,
programs.
thank you very much for your comment. We're going to get the group started as soon as possible, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there any other public comment?
Sure.
Hello? Just state your name and if you are a resident of the township, please.
Good evening. My name is Kadrian, and I am a resident of Lower Makefield. I wanted to raise a question regarding the implementation of fees for obtaining police reports beginning in January of this year. My concern is around accessibility, particularly for victims of crime or individuals who may need these reports for legal or personal safety reasons. In many of these situations, individuals are already navigating significant hardship, and adding costs for documents that were previously provided at no charge may create an additional barrier. I'd like to understand whether the township has any oversight or input into this decision, and whether there are any accommodations, such as fee waivers or reductions, for residents experiencing financial hardship or those who are victims of a crime. I also want to note that some neighboring municipalities offer more flexible access or accommodations in these situations. And I would encourage the township to consider a similar approach to ensure equitable access for all residents. Thank you, and I appreciate your guidance.
Thank you for your comment. Our police chief is actually here. If you want, he can get your information, and then he can answer all of your questions.
I've been in touch with the department, and Basically, the answer is no.
Okay, well, the first I'm hearing about it.
I emailed you a couple times regarding this.
You emailed myself?
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing any of those emails, and I check my emails pretty regularly. If you can,
February 27th and followed up on March 3rd.
What, did you email the whole board?
No, I just,
Okay, that's why.
yeah.
apologies.
Who did you email exactly?
Matt Ross.
You,
How do you spell your last name?
What, my last name?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm intrigued.
Q-A-Y-U-M.
You're saying, what was the last email?
Q-A. The email came from KADREAN@outlook.com.
see it.
So is this something that the board does have oversight on?
To my understanding, yes. I'm searching my email right now.
That's fine, but
I'm very
I'd
good
like
at
to
responding to my
discuss, like,
emails.
the possibility of the board implementing an official fee waiver program.
It is definitely possible. We'd have to look into it. If you want, please, before you leave, give your information to David,
Okay.
and we will follow up with you.
And if I may ask a question, you mentioned neighboring municipalities had more flexibility. Is there something specific? Was that just on a fee schedule or waiver or a different way to access?
No, the fee schedule waiver.
Okay.
Some of them don't have fees at all, and then ones that do offer some sort of flexibility. So, yeah, I think I've been in touch with his executive assistant regarding this, and she checked with him.
All right.
There's
Well,
been some conflicting responses.
Please just, before you leave, just give your information to David, and we will follow up with you.
Perfect.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much for your comment. Do we have any other public comment? Do we have anyone on the phone? All right, so with that,
Oh, your light's red in the back, by the way.
all right, we're good. All right, with that, I will move on to item 6, consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I will move to approve the consent agenda items.
Second?
All right, is there any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? All right, with that, I will call the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, item 7, engineers report. Does anybody have any questions on the engineers report? You're off the hook. Item 8 is fire, our 2025 annual report. We have Tim Chamberlain here. Tim, you know the drill?
Tim, you can be off the hook too if you want.
That's a fire joke, too.
That was good.
Tim, since my eyes are getting old, the version that you're presenting now is the exact same that we received earlier today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to open it here and follow
Yeah,
along. Thank you.
And it mirrors the packet that was sent out in your packet last
Got
Friday
it.
and stuff.
Thank you so much.
He's the youngest guy on the board. I think that was an old guy.
The youngest.
No, my eyes are getting
Excuse me, and I can read it.
See? So I just want to thank the board for giving me a couple minutes tonight to go over the 2025 end of year fire service report. I kind of gelled it together with the volunteer statistics along with my office. So actually in the audience tonight is the president from the fire company, Larry Newman. So if there's any questions at the end, myself or him would be more than happy to answer them. So next slide. There we go. So in 2025, the fire company answered 639 dispatched emergency calls for service, which totaled 7,624 man-hours from the volunteers. That included 12 working fires. Now, you might ask what a working fire is. A working fire is considered a fire that resulted in the fire company using a lot of their equipment, which is dropping hose, using their ladder, stuff like that, and being on scene for longer than an hour. There were 4 vehicle fires, 10 brush fires, and a mulch fire a couple times, unfortunately. 2 extended vehicle extrications and 4 water rescues with our first due area. We also helped mutual aid at 5 different house fires, 3 building fires, and 2 vehicle extrications over the year. In 2025, the fire company ranked 7th out of 59 fire departments in the county for responding in their first due coverage area. The breakdown of those 525 calls for the fire company was 484 in Lower Makefield Township and 41 in Yardley Borough. This chart does not depict the service calls that come into the station or through the director's office here at the township that requires a fire company presence. We could probably add about 30 to 40 calls if we added them for the year. Next slide. Our calls for service vary throughout the day, but the biggest part of the calls come between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m., which totals 493 calls. These are several logical reasons for such. More vehicles on the road, people awake, moving around, working in and out of town. The important thing to realize is that our busiest hours also overlap many of the hours our volunteers are at their full-time jobs. Looking at the graph also, 124 of our calls came between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Anytime our sleep is interrupted, as everybody knows, if we have kids, it's tough to operate if you're only working on 2 or 3 hours of sleep. Next slide, please. This graph on this slide shows the breakdown of calls to the days of the week. Once again, there's no rhyme or reason why certain days are busier than others. Last month, we started a duty crew program at the firehouse. Duty crews consist of 3 firefighters, a driver, and interior firefighters, and we staff Mondays and Saturday nights from 6 to 10. This was recommended from our ISO evaluation last year, along with the fire service study consultant. So far, it has proven effective and has been well received by the members. It also has cut down response time in those areas and helped with manpower issues. If it continues to be successful, we're looking at ways to expand the coverage to additional days next year. Next slide. The fire company had 42 of its members meet the requirements set forth in the bylaws to be considered active, which is responding to at least 25% of the 639 calls. When we take a closer look at the 42 members, we see 8 of them are listed as fire police officers who assist in traffic and crowd control at emergency scenes. 4 members are chief officers who respond directly to the scene to complete a size-up of the incident and determine what actions are needed. 10 of these members are driver-operators who are vital to our operations but do not actually get their hands on the tools or on the hose lines. 3 members are volunteer deputy fire marshals who assist me in investigations. That leaves 17 interior qualified members who respond to both fire stations to ensure that engines are staffed. Breaking down those 17 members, 7 are over the age of 50, 9 are under the age of 50, with the average age of all of them around 51 years old. Now, this may seem reasonable that there are 9 active members under the age of 50, but it's very rare to have all 9 show up at the same time for an incident due to work, family, obligations, and time of call. Next slide, please. When we break down the average age of our members who respond on the first responding apparatus to emergency calls during the day, which is considered 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., the average age is 49 years old. On the flip side, at night, 6 p. to 6 a. is 45 years old. I'll paint a picture for you briefly. We were dispatched for a possible house fire with a smoke condition in the basement during the day. The first out apparatus had my 78-year-old president behind me driving, myself as the officer. I had a 74-year-old and a 60-year-old in the back as a crew member. So when we're short-staffed like that, there's a lot of hands-on that we have to do and multiple tasks. So next slide, please. This graph depicts the average number of personnel on the first out apparatus during the day, which is around 3.8 from our township Woodside station and 3.33 from our borough station. As I said before, the driver operator does not actually get their hands on the tools or go inside the burning building. So if we subtract 1, we're only about 2.8 or 2.33. Think about the average age of the responders and the extra work that we have to do. The U.S. Fire Administration's 2023 annual report on line of duty deaths indicates the number of fatalities over the age of 50 make up 53% of the total line of duty deaths in the fire service. Next slide, please. Since January 2017, there have been 70 new people coming into the fire company, which is great. Of the 70 people that have been accepted into membership, 44 have already resigned due to inactive, lack of time, or changes in personal lives. 9 have become active fire police officers, 12 have become interior qualified firefighters, 1 joined as a social member, and 4 are exterior only. In the same time span, though, we lost 23 senior members, either have retired or have moved out of the area. 16 of them were interior firefighters, 4 were driver operators, and 3 were fire police officers. Just look at the experience that we lost over the years. It takes many years for us to train new firefighters once they get through their basic fire academy. Once again, we're not alone in the struggle to recruit and retain members. Our mutual aid companies are facing the same struggles, and as you see in the report that I gave you, we ran almost 130 mutual aid calls last year, which indicates that they're in the manpower issues as well. Next slide, please. Members have completed numerous schools and academies in 2025, totaling over 4,500 man-hours. We had 7 members complete the 212 hours of your basic Fire 1 course. 4 members completed over 40 hours of swift water training to become certified swift water technicians. As I mentioned, these classes are just the tip of the iceberg. We have a ladder truck, as you see in our report. We have a rescue truck. We have a high water vehicle. So there's a lot more training that the firefighters, once they get through their 212 hours, that they have to accomplish.
Tim, if I
Yes.
may, the 212 hours, how's that broken down? Is it a certain number of ride-along hours? Is it instruction through accredited institutions,
So that-
offsite? Yeah.
Yes, so that is taught by the Bucks County Fire School, which is ran through the Bucks County Community College. It's usually 2 nights a week and then a day on the weekend. So it's either Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. It's about 4.5 months, and then once they come out of there, they're nationally certified in the Firefighter 1 curriculum. Between that, we also have in-house training programs we do with them so they can start to ride as an extra firefighter, so they continue to have interest in the service. And even before they go to the fire school, we just had 3 members join last month. Fire school doesn't start till July, but we're training them in-house so they can start riding on the apparatus to help us on the fire ground, help the drivers that are older, help with the outside stuff. So we try to keep them involved to keep their enthusiasm. So,
Across that 4.5 months, just a rough estimate, how much time do you think they're spending with you on ride-alongs and additional training outside the 212?
I would probably average at another 50 to 60 hours.
Okay.
Just to be inside with the officers, training for the class, doing their testing, preparing for their testing. And then they're also coming to drills in the firehouse so they can meet the guys and stuff like that. So you're looking at, overall, you're probably 280 hours initially.
And over that same period of time, a full-time job, which is 1,920 hours a year, so you cut that in half, it's I'm bad at math.
Yeah.
400 some hours for their job, and then 300-ish hours with you.
Yeah.
It's a lot of commitment. Thank you.
Yep. Next slide. So transitioning to my office, there were 744 fire safety inspections completed at all commercial properties and apartment complexes. The office conducted 165 plan reviews for fire safety compliance with the fire code, which resulted in 126 additional inspections. 154 new smoke detectors were installed in residential homes that had detectors over 20 years old. 15 residents asked for assistance with car seat installations, and 81 Knox boxes were updated over the years. And you might wonder what a Knox box is, but that is a box that is on the building that has keys inside of it and emergency contacts. So if we have to respond either to the fire department or the police department after hours, we can access a building without waiting for a key holder. We can contact them, and then we can lock the building back up if it was a simple false alarm. So it has helped us tremendously over the years. Next slide. In 2025, there were 639 emergency calls for service, in which 119 of those calls required some type of fire marshal response from either fire calls investigation or fire code violations. This type of service is becoming more demanding, being a lot of small incidents are going through insurance companies, and that requires a fire report from the director's office. A lot of times, these responses are just during emergencies. There are a lot of follow-up days, weeks, with insurance investigators, homeowners, and contractors. The fire director, along with the volunteer deputy fire marshals, have a lot of continued training to keep up their skills to conduct the investigations, write the reports, and attend court. Next slide, please.
Tim, do you get a lot of I was looking at your photo, a lot of electric scooters that catch fire?
Actually, I don't know if you can go back to that slide. But,
Is that your scooter, Tim?
no, it was not, thank God. Which I won't let my kids have that. But that was actually in Macclesfield Park on a Sunday afternoon. Yeah, they were riding it, and it blew up on them, and there was a child on there. He got off. But yeah, I'm going to say we probably have about 8 to 10 incidents with lithium-ion batteries a year, whether they're like that or inside a garage or something like that. But they're becoming more and more, common.
a little bit of an aside, but yes. And especially when with the e-bikes and the e-scooters, if you ever go to New York City, you can't walk without having to dive, duck, dodge.
Exactly, yes.
So anyway, can we do any outreach on stuff like that? Have we had any public outreach to try and?
We can. I know when I go out and do our presentations, stuff like that, I try to hit on the lithium-ion battery safety, safe disposal of them when they're done, safe buying of them, stuff like that. Don't just buy the cheap ones off Amazon, go with the brand name and stuff like that, because that's what we're seeing a lot of. But yeah, we try to do the outreach through our fire prevention night and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm sure we can even push it even farther, so.
Yeah, I'm just, hopefully, not just this one, but hopefully outreach and education can maybe reduce some of the calls that you shouldn't be going out on, right?
Correct,
To
yes.
save you some sleep time or whatever other time, so you can
Yes.
focus on the stuff that really matters. Anyway.
I agree.
That's an aside, but
Yes.
that picture caught my eye.
Just one thing on that, Tim. I am noticing HOAs are now banning interior parking of small electric vehicles and e-bikes because of the fire risk. So I've seen that come around. I don't want to suggest anything to HOAs because that's a different business, but it's something I'm seeing with other HOAs around the country. And I had known that there was an issue with those, so that's why I did want one, but I don't have one. But something to consider if we talk to people.
We've caught a couple of them sitting in common areas of the apartment complexes when we did our inspections. So we were with maintenance and we moved them right away, because when those things happen, they go. And trying to get people out, even in a common area, it's going to be tough. So yeah. Next slide, please. Speaking of education, in 2025, there were 19 fire safety presentations conducted to numerous different age groups and in many different settings. In 2025, we did a pilot program at Afton Elementary where we did a 30-minute presentation to each age group from kindergarten to 5th grade about fire safety. This was a big success, and we've been asked to expand to all the other elementary schools in our coverage area. If we end up doing this, this will add an additional 20 fire safety presentations this year. This is a great way to interact with the public and convey the importance of fire safety, lithium ion, stuff like that. So, next slide, please. So, in summary, the fire company members contributed more than 14,000 man-hours in 2025, which doesn't consider the hours of administrative officers give or the unlogged man-hours the fire officers and leaders spend attending county meetings, in-house meetings, or performing maintenance around the firehouses. There was over 1,000 life safety inspections and plan reviews conducted to ensure businesses were safe for customers and also the emergency responders who respond during emergency. Over 100 emergency incidents required an investigation or code enforcement. Over 150 new smoke detectors were installed in residential homes that replaced detectors that were over 10 years old, in which some cases we found that they were over 30 years old. The fire service is ever-changing with new challenges for the members to face every day. We continue to progress and move forward to enhance fire safety in the community. Once again, on behalf of myself, the fire company would like to thank everyone up on that board, Dave, for all the support you guys give us throughout the year. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I don't, but thank you very much for the report, and thank you for everything you guys do.
I had a question for Mr. Newman. You mentioned he was available to come up. Sorry, I have to call you Larry. He was my Sunday school teacher as a kid. I have a really hard time calling him Larry.
Hello, Newman.
Exactly. Yes.
Hi, thanks for coming tonight.
Good to see you.
So, I would like to know how we can make sure that the volunteer fire company is feeling the appreciation for the time that they put in. This is a lot of time that goes into things. And I know that you folks have your own ceremonies for years of service, 5 years, 10 years, 15. Is it appropriate that we ask to be invited? I'm new to the board. Maybe we're already invited and just one hasn't happened. Or is it we should also be inviting firefighters at milestones to come here before the township for a
Well, I think that's
recognition?
a good idea. Like, for instance, I've been in the fire service now 51 years, 40 of them in Lower Makefield. The county came in, and Steve Sanasaro and
Barry Warren.
thank you. It's part of being 78 years old. Yeah, I mean, that would be nice. When the chief was in 50 years, we recognized the chief here at the township meeting. And it's very much appreciated because, in years past, a lot of people didn't even know who we were because we run a pretty efficient organization. We do it on a very small budget. Our budget from the township is $370,000. Northampton is $6.8 million. So that's the difference. We do a lot with smoke and mirrors. I can tell you that we have our subscription drive. That has gone down steadily every year. Usually we would pull in from our subscription letter. We would gross probably like $100,000, $110,000. Now it's down to probably $88,000. We had a parking lot agreement with McCaffrey's. That's coming to an end. That was $18,000 a year, so we no longer have that. Our biggest thing is not money. Our biggest thing is manpower. I worry. I'm 78 years old. We had 2 calls today. What Timmy didn't say is that right now we're running number 2 in the county. We had 72 calls in January, and we had 68 calls in February. We are really, really busy. For a while, we were running 3 calls a day. At the one storm, in 2 days, we had 22 calls. I made 18 of them. I'm 78 years old. My biggest worry is getting younger people. We have younger people to drive the trucks. Everybody can drive the utility trucks, which is important also, but not a lot of people want to go up to the bigger trucks, the pumpers, the rescue truck, the ladder trucks. So that's one of the things. We need help. As Tim pointed out, when we're averaging 3.8 firefighters going to a call, well, I'm the driver. I have to stay with the truck. So that's leaving 2.8 firefighters to go in if we have anything. It's difficult, and right now we're running at least 2 calls a day. We used to run like 1.6. And now it's pretty high.
So you said you've had 140 calls so far, January and February. You had 639 calls all year in 2025. So you are well ahead.
If we keep on this pace, we're gonna have over 700 calls. It could be 800 calls.
Is that all storm related, or is there something else driving those numbers?
It depends. We get a lot of those calls during the storm is because the Emergency Management Committee requested that the fire company respond with the ambulances during the snowstorm. Part of that reason was to shovel the sidewalk so they could get the stretcher into the house. I think of the 22 calls, I think 9 or 10 were EMS calls. But we had one guy down on River Road that was shoveling snow, 68 years old. They found him in the snow. He was dead. We had 3 deaths in those calls. So, look, we're very fortunate that we get, as Tim pointed out, we just had 3 new members join, and they're in their 20s. The problem is having them go through this whole program takes a long time, and then this is not where you just substitute somebody to be a cashier or something. You got to train these people, and for instance, they have to know where everything is on the truck. So when the chief says, I need you to bring in the fans to ventilate the house, they got to know which compartment the fans are in. And we try to standardize everything on all of our trucks, but people have to put in the time. And we have our lieutenants are really been great about training these new people, during the week, extra hours that are not even recorded. And then we have, I have an office staff. My office staff, I'm the youngest. I'm 78. The other 2 guys are 81 and 82, and we're the ones that are running the business. We probably write 45 checks a month. So, we're going to meet with the workers' comp people a week from Friday. Running the business, I got to worry about, does the garage doors work? Is our emergency generator fueled? We pride ourselves on being prepared. When they had the bowling alley over in Levittown, we were there for 11 hours. Our trucks were the only ones that didn't have to be refueled because we have a rule. If you hit 70% fuel, you go over to the township and you get your trucks fueled up. We have good people running the company, We just need, more people to help. Probably since Tim was appointed as the fire safety director, all the inspections and things that he does are so helpful to us to know what we're going into. I said when Wegmans and Pickett Preserve was built, I said that's probably going to run us about 20 calls. I actually timed it from March 1st to February 28th. The year before, we had 21 calls. So every time you have a new development, you get more calls. Whenever Morrisville has or Falls Township has an apartment fire, they activate 7 fire departments. That's to ensure that they have enough people coming. So one of the 2 calls today was a house fire over in Morrisville that the ladder truck responded to. But, fire alarms, we probably run around 275 fire alarms a year, probably another 60 CO alarms. So, this is what's going on with the fire company. My biggest concern is the closest guy to me was 100 calls less than me. I worry about driving to calls. And my wife has esophageal cancer. I had to go to the hospital today, so I worry about who's going to be there to drive the trucks. What's happening is that you got to know this. I live 1.5 miles from the firehouse. Other guys live 2 miles or 2.5 miles. If I'm not there, it's probably going to be another 2 minutes before the truck gets on the road. So that's what I wanted to leave you with, that thought. Okay?
Well, give the love of the Coyle family to Mrs. Newman.
Thank you.
We certainly hope that.
And also for me, but
Thank you.
do you have any ideas of how we can, I don't know, as a board or as a township, encourage some of our younger people to join?
Well, I'll tell you, we've been very fortunate. As we said, we just had 3 new people apply, and they're all in their 20s. But the idea is keeping them. We had 2 or 3 people that went through fire school, that went through the 210 hours, and then he decided not to do it. I couldn't believe it. They went through all of that training, and then he just quit. No rhyme or reason. No. That was his whole synopsis of the fire company.
How do you mentioned your subscription service? I'm not familiar with that.
We send out a subscription letter every year asking for donations to the fire company.
Okay.
Yeah, and that has
It's so crazy.
steadily gone down. It peaked at 9/11, and it's been going down since. But it's at its lowest level ever right now. I love the fire service. That's why I'll probably do this till I die, or they tell me you're too old and you can't drive. But, I just worry about the future.
You're going to drive till you die.
Yeah, drive till I die.
Some of these young people might want to drive.
At the same time, please. We do that to the man.
Because we don't have enough people to answer that call.
No.
So, Mr. Newman, first, thank you for your service, and I know over the years, because you've always been there, the challenge that you're facing is that you've brought to our attention that the fire service and Tim and others is something we're all grappling with, Yardley Borough together, part of the fire study. The challenge, if we don't get enough volunteers, is how do we bring potentially paid fire folks, but keep what makes our volunteer system work so well in a way that we can have something that bridges the gap from increased calls. And assuming that we may have future growth or development, do you have suggestions around that? I know we're all grappling with this together. It's something that I know we haven't talked too much publicly about, but if you have insights you feel that it's good to share publicly, that's good.
Of the top 7 fire departments in the county, we're the only one that's 100% volunteer.
Wow.
During the day is tough because that's
We
when
need
you
to
get
get
the
younger
retirees.
people in the area.
And as Tim pointed out, a
Believe
bunch of the retirees are over 70 years old, are in their 60s.
easy.
And that's part of the problem. I don't go into buildings. I had 2 knee operations. I'm just happy to be driving the trucks and getting the guys there. But
They don't, you can just.
it's an issue it's a national issue. I mean, I come from Long Island, where I did 10 years there, and they're facing the same thing. They're consolidating fire departments. Right now, Bristol got a grant to build a new firehouse so they can combine their 4 or 5 fire departments into one. Ben Salem
Did the same.
had 7 departments. They had to go to a paid department because 2 of the fire departments, basically Eddington and Union of Cornwall's, just closed their doors, basically, because they didn't have any guys to show up. So it's headed that way because people don't have the time to volunteer.
Can I ask, so, sorry, John, may I?
Well, sure, but I have one last question.
Please.
You go ahead first.
Yeah, no, your question prompted a question for me. So,
Go ahead.
so I don't know, let's say we do find some funding for some paid firefighters to supplement. Is that in addition to the volunteer service, or?
Yeah. Yes, it's called a combination department.
Yeah, or do we run into a scenario where, like, the first full-time position, we kind of lose a volunteer because they now transition to full-time paid fire?
Yeah.
So as we've always said, we try to take baby steps because you don't want to move too fast, too quick. And as I said, we started a duty crew program this year. And unfortunately, we have to incentivize everything because people aren't going to stay. Even though we say we're volunteer, there's something in the background that's motivating us. So it's costing us $200 a duty crew. So we had to take 20 grand out of our $50,000 that we allot for our incentive program to fund that, and that's only 8 hours a week, basically. So, you know, if we want to sit down and talk about ways, maybe there's ways that we can fund a duty crew program that we can extend those hours. And now you don't have to worry about hiring a full-time person because now we're, you know, in getting the volunteers to come out at the firehouse, but then you're also giving them some kind of benefit. You know, we can even look at, as Larry was saying, you know, maybe, you know, part-timers or, you know, maybe a full-time driver to start. Because you're not going to push the volunteers away if you might get more volunteers come around during the day if they know that there's a driver at the firehouse from 7 to 3 or 8 to 4, whatever you decide, and go, you know what, I'm going to come because I know the fire truck's going to get out. But I'm not going to come because if Larry's doing an airport run and the fire chief's somewhere else, well, that truck's not going to move and Newtown's going to beat us in. Well, they're not going to make an attempt. They're not going to leave their job. So, you know, starting slowly, I think, is the best way to go. I know we've talked a lot about it. Moving too fast could really deter a lot of them. But if we take it slow, work with the fire company and put a good plan together, and you can work together as maybe having a driver or having some part-timers along with the duty crew program. You can have people at the firehouse, whether they're part-time paid or volunteers that are in a stipend program, and now you have your coverage. Now your response time goes down. You have the manpower. You can train with them in there. And then when they're not doing the duty crew, then they can spend time with their family, so they're not required to carry a pager 24/7 and wake up every night, stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of good ideas that we can come up with and put a game plan together. But as Larry say and stuff like that, you know, we're there. It's not like we're going to be there in 5 years. We're there. So I think we just need to sit down and start looking at what the study recommends, putting our, you know, thoughts together and seeing what the best avenue is to make it effective and affordable for the taxpayers, but also provide the right protection that they deserve. So.
John?
Yeah, and, you know, we had a duty crew Monday night, and we had a washing machine or dryer fire, and another engine from Falls comes also. They were out on the road already because they had just had a call, so we got there at the same time. But we were on the road in less than 2 minutes. You know, it takes a while from all of a sudden to stop what you're doing, get downstairs, go get your gear on. It takes almost a minute just to put your gear on. I mean, if you watch some of these TV shows, it's so funny to watch that they're running out the door like in 20 seconds.
No.
That's not real life. But
No.
again, as I say, it's not really a money issue so much as it is a manpower issue.
Yeah, well, two things. One, for those watching, the township has the wherewithal to get the money that we need to make sure that we can protect people. And part of that was a change in the second-class township code to allow for increased millage for fire services. So for those who are concerned about like general fund caps, that doesn't apply here. So we're more than able to resolve that situation. And I think all of us want to make sure that we get that done the right way so that we protect people. The last comment I was going to question I had for you, Mr. Newman, and remember you're under oath, is Mr. Supervisor Coyle, Sunday school student,
Yeah,
well
I
behaved.
taught religion to the whole 8th grade, 7th and 8th grade religion to the whole family.
Really?
6 of them.
It did.
There were 7 of us, Larry. 7 of us.
I lost count. Look, I'm old.
Yeah, you get. There's enough redheads, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
they'll look the same.
So
I taught
you're
religion.
you're telling me you're under non-disclosure and you can't tell me what happened at that time, or you're still in therapy.
He was one of my
John,
friends.
I wanted to know that because he ran with my kid.
I was so good at Sunday school. Did you hear earlier? I have a Jewish household, so nothing on your teaching, Larry. Nothing at all on your teaching.
And I think my wife taught one of Judy's sons.
I think
My
she,
wife, yeah.
oh, God
She taught
help
at
her.
Edgewood for 18 years.
God help her.
Yeah.
Gosh.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate everything you do for us. Appreciate it.
I had one question.
Okay.
It's not as funny, I'm sorry. But, is the county helping out at all? 'Cause, honestly, we're in a region where, like you said, right? Everyone's having an issue. We have a mix of volunteer and paid and some combo of the two in different towns and we all, everyone seems to help each other out. Has the county come in and looked at regionalization or something that's more planned? I know you all have mutual aid and you help each other out, but that's not necessarily on a case-by-case basis, but it's not it's not the approach per se, if that makes any sense.
No, yeah, not the
But have they come in and said, look, we're limited here. We need to look at this as a county and help to figure out a plan for these guys?
As you all are aware, the county kind of pushes it down to the lowest level. There's many talks with the fire companies and the county to do things. And a few years ago, they did that tax break for the volunteers, which is great, but it only affects your volunteers that actually own a household.
Right.
So a lot of my younger generation or my renters, they don't get any benefit from it. So I know there was some talks with doing something more with that. But on the aspect of like the county coming in and making like a regionalization, Bucks County Fire Service, they kind of tiptoe around it. I hate to say it. They don't want to get involved. They rather just let the fire companies figure it out themselves. There's not even much funding, to help out with and stuff like that. They rely on the federal government, and unfortunately, the way it is now, there's a lot of federal grants that are on hold. So, when we talk about funding sources and safer grants and stuff like that, which are fantastic, now they're on hold. So, hopefully that comes up. So, unfortunately, Dan, not really, no. I mean, we all talk about it in the fire service, like that would be great to have a Bucks County Fire Service, and then you just have fire departments in different areas that are, more popular than others, and they can, and then they can cover, but they really don't, there's not much talk about it now.
We should, like through Bocado or one of those, because we're part of Bucks County organizations as a township officials, where we, not that any one of us has that much pull, obviously, but maybe John does, I don't know.
And I don't,
But, I think if that's something that people are interested in, I think we need to start the conversation.
and I don't think you would actually eliminate, like, out of the 59 fire departments that are in the county, you probably wouldn't eliminate much. As Larry said, you can see Bristol Township's consolidating because they had a lot of fire departments. Middletown's kind of operating under one. Ben Salem just combined, so they're operating under like kind of one umbrella, but they still have the firehouses stationed
I
there.
think it would be more efficient, you
But
could
it's
make it more efficient. coordinated.
Understandably, yeah, more efficient, one budget, stuff like that, yes. So it's,
Help each
I
other
have to
out.
come on your side.
Yeah. No, I know it's easier said than done, obviously, but
So.
we can help support that. I'd like to. But, yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, number 9, managers report.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, there was no motion. My fault. Yeah, if you have public comment on that, come on up.
So my name's Roger Newhall. I live at 317 North Fieldstone Court since 1987. So listening to these gentlemen, it really started triggering some ideas. Rather than raise our taxes, good Democrats welcome immigrants. and we want them to be assimilated, why not be really innovative? Make yourselves famous among all the different townships in America that you guys worked with your federal and state representatives to come up with to offer immigrants a path to citizenship if they would volunteer to help.
Sir, you just have to talk into the mic.
So if they would volunteer to help the fire department, be volunteers, what would that do? That would help them assimilate because they would work with these gentlemen and they would learn English. Wouldn't that be a win-win for everybody? So anyway, I would just challenge you to think outside the box and maybe talk to, if you probably have a township national meeting that you guys go to and you get to talk to township supervisors all across America. Go and challenge them and say, wow, why don't we make a difference? And the other thing is, there's a Sean Ryan, former Navy SEAL podcast, and he just interviewed today Shyam Sakar. I saw him on CNBC the other day. Anybody know who he is? He's the Chief Technology Officer of Palantir. And he was talking about how AI is making a tremendous amount of difference if you use it as a tool, not as something that would possibly take everybody's jobs. He said, did you know, and I didn't know this, that out in Nevada in the Tesla battery factory, that what they did was they took a whole bunch of former casino workers and they used AI as a tool to train them. And normally, it's so much work. I mean, it's such a challenge. Like they were saying, it takes a long time to train these fire volunteers. Well, he said that, I guess I got to relax a little bit and get too excited, huh? But anyway, he said that what they did at the Panasonic battery factory out in Las Vegas, that they trained former casino workers on sophisticated Japanese manufacturing equipment. They trained them with the help of AI in 3 months, which it normally took 3 years. So anyway, those are my ideas. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 9, Manager's Report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The first item I have is to consider a proposal for engineering consulting services from HRG relating to the Makefield Brook Basin retrofits project. There were 3 basins in that vicinity of the township that were contemplated to be retrofitted as part of the township's pollution reduction plan. The total cost of the proposal is $75,000. Again, that would take us through essentially start to finish in terms of being in a position to bid these projects. As is noted on the agenda, one of the retrofits, the Brentwood Road Basin, is the township already was a recipient of just shy of $175,000 through the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection's Environmental Stewardship and Watershed Protection Grant Program. So the intent, obviously we have obligations as it relates to our pollution reduction plan and our permit. We'd like to be in a position to begin design work on these projects. As we're doing that, obviously as there's additional information available, we could look at other external funding sources to offset the construction cost associated with these improvements. But again, we do need to get moving on some of these, so we would recommend accepting the proposal from HRG, and we're happy to answer any questions they may have.
So moved?
Second.
All right, with that, is there any questions from the board?
It's in the budget?
Yeah.
And it's covered by a
also
grant. By a grant.
It's also covered by a grant.
And it helps with their related to our MS4 permits and.
Yeah, I mean, again, we have regulatory requirements in order to implement these. I did, just for a point of information, I did check with Corey and team just to make sure, if you do recall, you did execute a proposal relative to an amendment or a potential amendment to our pollution reduction plan. These 3 projects, despite the effort to look at other perhaps more efficient ways to meet our obligations, These three projects are projects that they will retain within even an amended PRP. So there's no, just in the event that there was any questions about how the amendment process may impact these projects, they don't see any impact to these three projects.
Good stuff.
All right, any questions from the public? With that, I'll call the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. The next item is just an update regarding stormwater utility bill implementation. As you are aware, the township accepted a proposal from Cassell for billing and customer services. The billing system essentially is done at this point. All of the billing data that was prepared by HRG has been integrated into the billing system. We are in the process of working with a local bank as well for lockbox setup for non-electronic payments to the extent people are going to mail in payments. And then staff training is also scheduled on both the lockbox as well as on the billing system. So at this point, we are in good position to meet the billing date that was established in the ordinance that was adopted for that initial bill to go out on April 1st. So I just wanted to make mention of that.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a quick question? Since there are ways to get reductions on stormwater, the first bill will not, obviously, there's no way.
Correct. So I would imagine we're going to get an influx of folks that are questioning both the utility fee and perhaps ways to reduce their cost. So all of the credit applications would be retroactive to the beginning. So to the extent that somebody submits an application or has to gather information to submit an application, they would be retroactive to the effective date of the levy. So there would likely be a credit on a subsequent bill moving forward.
And people who have done some stormwater management, through the township, we have permits, et cetera, we would have to just come in and have them pull what we've done or not done, or?
Yeah, to the extent that we have that information, we would be able to assist them through the credit process.
Any of us who've done any work in the past, I would say 5 or 6 years,
Sure.
have done a lot of stormwater management.
Correct. So again, they would submit an application. They may say, hey, as part of a zoning hearing board proceeding, we installed an infiltration trench. And then we would obviously have that information to be able to help them through the credit process and make sure that the appropriate credit is applied to the bill. So, yeah.
All right.
So just wanted to, again, make you aware that things are moving along in terms of the implementation efforts, and we are on target to issue those bills within the next, at this point, a couple weeks. So,
All right. Thank you. All right, item 10, police, our 2026 February monthly report. Chief, you want to come on up?
Good evening, Supervisors. Respectfully report Police Department statistics for February 2026. In February, Police Department effected 7 arrests, bringing our yearly total to 17. We issued 16 non-traffic citations, bringing our yearly total to 32. We issued 131 traffic citations, bringing our yearly total to 313. We issued 488 traffic warnings, bringing our total to 1,089. We investigated 1,029 incidents, bringing our yearly total to 2,148. We recorded 229 community engagements, bringing our yearly total to 403. We investigated 32 motor vehicle accidents, bringing our yearly total to 73. And we had an additional 12 incidents involving deer strikes. And of our motor vehicle accidents this month, 10 or 31% were reportable. Our co-responder served 12 clients in February and had 27 total encounters. And that concludes my
Thank you. Does anybody from the board have any questions?
Anything in particular concern?
The most common incidents this month, sir, were the same as last month: medical aids, proactive police checks, and alarms. However, in this month, in March, we are seeing an uptick last weekend on entries into motor vehicles again along the Middletown line. We've collected some DNA on some of the recovered. 2 of the vehicles were recovered in New Jersey. 1 came from New Jersey and went back. 1 was taken from here and wound up over there. And we have some photographs that we're also working with, but our Criminal Investigative Division is working that now. We've issued information to the public about taking precautions to lock their cars, hide their stuff, and take their keys with them.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome, sir.
How'd it go with, I know the police department was heavily involved in assisting during the major snow events. How'd that go for it, with both police department and emergency management?
Correct. Yeah. These were challenging storms. They were storms we haven't seen in a number of years. We aided a number of people. We assisted with medical aids, as did the fire department, our colleagues from the fire department. Accidents were low, thankfully. Many people heeded our warnings to stay, not only ours, but national warnings, right, to stay off the road. When people take the advice and make plans ahead of time, it really makes our emergency response job a lot easier.
Yeah, I thought the community outreach ahead of time was great.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, item 11, Public Works. Come on up, Derek.
Good evening, Supervisors. In front of you this evening is an item for Makefield Highlands Golf Course. It would be considering the acceptance of a proposal from TCCI Excavation, and this is for the installation of a dedicated public water irrigation line. Total cost of proposal is $148,335. As the board's aware, during budget season, we did earmark, I believe it was about $150,000 for this project. This would help alleviate future sewer costs for when the golf course needs to utilize public water to fill the irrigation ponds. Happy to answer any questions about the project and potential future work.
And this is a budgeted item. This is what we budgeted for the last budget season. correct?
Yeah, there is, the reason it is under this section of the agenda as opposed to a consent agenda is that the total cost will be slightly higher than the $150,000 that was
Thank you,
budgeted.
Dave.
Okay.
In addition to the $148,335, there will be costs that'll be assessed through or by PA American Water as it relates to tapping into the public water system. I think we're estimating those to be around $30,000, between $25,000 and $30,000.
Again, American Water, until they get a tapping card, they don't really want to estimate jobs, but they're ballparking probably around $25,000 to $30,000 for their contractor to do their necessary tapping work, to tap into our work. So
Okay.
that would be cost directly to the township.
All right.
And then Derek, I don't, just for the, again, not to prolong this conversation, there were 2 sort of component parts as part of the TCCI excavation proposal.
Correct.
Do you want to just make mention that we're working through a couple items as it relates to the additional water source, which was the second prong in that was both this dedicated water line and then doing an additional well on the property to potentially avoid the need for the pond liner project that we talked about previously. Do you want to just
Sure, yeah, obviously.
maybe give a preview on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if the board recalls, again, we also earmarked, I believe it was $100,000
$100,000,
in the
yes.
2026 budget to source an additional well on the golf course. And again, as you have that packet in front of you, there was an item B in there, was to start that irrigation well process. And I believe it was around $90,000-ish, give or take. We're working through some details of that, and just so the board's aware, it's almost the well is almost a 2-prong approach also. So not only is there some permitting, geotechnical investigation involved, it's drilling a well, making sure we find water at that depth, and then once all that is done, you do a well test, see your production rate, and then the second part, which isn't in that $90,000, which would take place in probably 2027 from a budget standpoint, is actual well pump installation, irrigation line to the pond, and then electrical expense. So it's almost a 2-prong phase for the second part of, helping irrigate those the golf course.
Is that a future agenda item then, once you get through the?
Yeah. It'll be, we're not asking for any action on that at this point. It will be a future item. We just wanted to sort of give you a preview and say, hey, that, again, as Derek said, there's sort of 2 phases. We have budgeted for sort of phase 1. Phase 2 would probably spill into 2027 is what. is
Correct.
what-
Yep,
what
for,
we're
for a well, an additional well in the course.
What's that? No, the spilling? No. No.
It was a good one.
All right, with that, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? All right, with that, I'll call the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 12, Solicitor's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The supervisors present this evening did meet in executive session this evening, immediately prior to this meeting, to discuss issues concerning real estate, employment, and litigation, and the minutes should reflect that. The first item on your agenda under my report is consider enacting an ordinance amending Chapter 182 of the Township's Code of Ordinance with reference to the amusement tax. You do have that amended ordinance in your packet. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, this has been properly advertised and is ready for enactment.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, with that, is there any questions from the board?
This is just a simple adjustment to the rates.
Correct, we did it and had
Yep.
to
Yes.
be
Thank you very
modified
much.
slightly. That's
I'm
it.
good.
All right, any questions from the public? With that, I'll call the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Second and third items on my report are with reference to decisions by your zoning hearing board. The first is to consider the authorization of the filing of an appeal from the zoning hearing board's decision relating to property located at 194 River Road, also, and that it was zoning hearing board application number Z-25-26. This appeal would be made to the Bucks County Court of Common Pleas, if you so vote or desire.
Sure. Like to make a motion to authorize the solicitor to file an appeal of the zoning hearing board's decision relating to 194 River Road, ZHB application number Z2526 to the Bucks County Court of Common Pleas.
I'll second.
All right, is there any questions from the board?
So in this particular case, would the applicant be coming before the Board of Supervisors for approval for anything, or do they they would be able to build by right based on the appeal?
My understanding is that the variances requested are the only thing that is required for them to move
So
forward
they would
with the
just go right to a
construction.
building permit?
Correct. It's a
Okay.
single-family dwelling on 194
Yeah, no
River
site plan
Road.
review.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And the reason I asked that is, that changes me to being a yes in this case, but one of the things that the township is a part of is the FEMA community rating system that we entered into over 10 years ago that requires us to make sure that we're doing our part in terms of flood management so that people get about a 25% reduction in their homeowners' policies for flood insurance. And anything that jeopardizes that always gets me uncomfortable. And based on the original discussion, that I would enter into on that.
Any more questions from the board?
Yeah, sorry. So is construction in flood zones considered in part of the community rating system?
It's about how we review them and make sure that they're meeting the requirements that we have. So my understanding in this particular case is that, there's discussion as to what their process and techniques were. The question is the net, impervious surface as a result of that. And again, in the flood zone, especially River Road, because that's an area which overtops a lot, so.
Yeah.
I would note that it's not just a floodplain, it's the actual floodway.
Yes.
Yeah.
So during major storm events, this is the area, so floodplains, and actually this was pretty well explained at the zoning hearing board meeting after this one by the same attorney's engineer, just a different project, in why, no irony there at all, why it's very dangerous to build anything in a floodway versus within a flood fringe, which is still in a floodplain, but outside of the floodway, but you don't have running water effectively. Because the engineer was trying to get approval for building of a home that was partially within a parcel that was within a flood fringe of a map FEMA floodplain. And he was arguing why that was okay, but he would never do it in a floodway.
I think people have forgotten or may not have lived here, because it may be 20 years ago or more, that not only did we have floods in the spring, but the following winter, the Delaware rose very high, it froze, and then as it thawed and rain was north of us, there were icebergs the size of large boats that went into some people in River Road's living rooms. I mean, I'm not talking, floating ice, I'm talking icebergs. They were huge. And I think that you have to warn people of that danger. It's still there. Mother Nature does what she chooses to do.
And the regulatory floodway is really where debris, where water flows heavily during a storm, carries debris. This particular home that has been designed is quite large. And the way they designed it, it's interesting because they're not allowed to have a shed, I don't believe, or certain storage. However, it's sort of a cantilevered home with plenty of, it's a raised home, but it's an open area underneath the home where when they were taking photos of a neighboring home that was built several years ago in a similar fashion, we said, well, where are you going to store everything? And they said they can't store anything under there, and you could see pictures of lawnmowers and bikes and other fertilizers, et cetera, that were stored there, that during a storm event, those will be the first things to get washed down the river or into someone else's home and cause damage. So it's very dangerous to build in a floodway, and this is a massive home in a floodway.
Those homes were raised because of the damage that was done in that flood and the ice and that following spring.
Is that storage issue a matter for code enforcement? That code enforcement would be able to cite someone for storing?
I don't know about the property next door that was built about 10-plus years ago, so I'm not sure what the restrictions or requirements are. In this particular decision, there was an agreement, and they agreed to put on the record file something with the Recorder of Deeds that there would be nothing placed on the first floor.
Okay. Yeah, this came before planning, and when it came before planning, my position was there's a structure there today. It could get washed away in a flood and cause damage downriver. This is a new structure, but it complies with new standards. So, it sounds like it may be 4-1, but I don't see a strong reason to change my view on that. But yeah, I'm comfortable with the board moving forward.
All right, any comments from?
My issue is that, yes, they say they're not going to store anything under there, but yet we're going to find bicycles and lawnmowers.
Yeah, in addition to that, sorry.
Yeah.
When other debris comes downriver, like trees and whatnot.
It gets caught there.
Or it knocks out the pile and the house
Right,
falls over.
and the house falls down, exactly.
not a safe
I don't think we haven't seen large floods in this area in, I would say, about
2.5 years ago we had it.
Yeah, not that
but
long ago.
I'm talking what we had about 20 years ago. It was.
The river flood, 2.5 years ago was
Yeah.
the streams, but it wasn't the river.
It wasn't the river. I mean, we've had the river overflow. We've had all of downtown Yardley Borough literally almost underwater. And they've done a lot of work to amend the problems, but.
If I can ask another question, I know I said I was done. Bad habit. So, I mean, is it possible, if it is unsafe to have any structure within this floodway, can we condemn the property that is there today?
Well, so one of the things that I couldn't ask at the meeting because I wasn't, but one of the questions I would have, to your point, is the house looks like there's nobody living there, so I don't know if it's on our abandoned property or vacant property list. If it isn't, we should confirm whether it should be or not. And I haven't been in the house or seen it. It's an older home. It seems to be not in the best condition. I can confirm that. But that might be something we have to look at. But it should probably be checked to see if it should be on the vacant property list.
Yeah, we can follow up on that one. Yep.
On that.
Yeah.
Our ordinance is tough to condemn properties for blight or for vacancy, but it's something we'll look into.
All right, any comments from the public? All right, with that, I'll call the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1.
Okay, we will appeal that to the Court of Common Pleas. I just like to make one correction. Supervisor Grenier, I did not know if you said it was this application and the one following it, and the next zoning hearing board meeting, had the same attorney, different engineer. The engineer for the second just confirmed what this engineer did not.
Right.
Okay, I just
That's what
wanted
I
to make
said.
sure that we
Yeah,
said
no,
that.
no, it was the
I
same.
didn't know if you said it was the same engineer, same attorney.
I
It
said
wasn't.
same attorney, but his
Yep.
engineer for another project.
Same attorney,
Yep.
different engineers both times. I just wanted to clarify that.
Who you want.
Okay, the item C on your agenda is consider authorization for the filing of an appeal of the zoning hearing board's decision relating to 0 Heacock Road, which is zoning hearing board application number Z-25-44
Where that is
to the
on
Bucks County Court of Common Pleas. This is with respect to 0 Haycock, or Heacock is a smaller parcel or lot on Haycock. It's about 14,300 square feet, of which
Oh, boy, it's
zoning
where
hearing
that is.
board
Crazy.
granted approval to build a ranch-type home.
Crazy.
I believe the decision was circulated to you all, so if you have specific questions about it,
This is heavily wooded, correct?
it is heavily wooded.
And with mature trees.
There was some
Mostly.
debate about whether or not there
Yeah,
are
that's-
mature trees on the lot. Some pictures that we saw would indicate that there were fairly mature trees.
Yeah, there
I think
are.
the applicant stated that they were not, and many of them were scrub trees, if I'm not mistaken. or-
Anytime there's a tree that's not 15 years old, they call it a scrub tree. But I know, now that I realize which the lot it has to be, it is heavily, heavily wooded. I mean, it does have, other things there.
So the most interesting photo I saw were the real estate listing for the neighbor's home that backs up to it, and you could see all the trees in the backyard. But related to that, they did not, just so everyone's aware, they did not apply for a variance to our woodlands portion of the ordinance.
They did not.
Because they did, nor did they make a determination on the woodlands. They did have not a tree survey, but a tree report done by an arborist from New Jersey. Well, that was essentially.
It was a letter.
It was a letter about 3 lines long, gave no indication of the number, size, type, or species of trees or location, so there was nothing to go off of. But that was something that wasn't addressed from a regulatory perspective at the meeting. They didn't end up, so they had variances that were approved, and the zoning hearing board worked to reduce the size of the structure, I guess, if that makes a footprint.
Went from 2 stories to 1
story.
story. And it should be noted that the neighbors directly affected by the new construction did appear, made a very cohesive, coherent, and passionate plea. I don't know what the status is, if they plan on appealing. I will tell the appeal period is up very shortly, in the next day or so. I have not received any notice that they have appealed, the neighbors, just for color.
My understanding is that state law is very permissive towards a landowner to develop on the land. If we were to oppose, would we have a chance of prevailing?
That's never a question that attorneys like to answer for. There's always a chance. I am not confident in the fact that this was a subdivided lot that is showing on plans, overall plans.
Yeah.
So it is allegedly, supposedly a buildable lot.
I just want to make sure they address the woodlands issue,
And-
which is separate from what we're talking about, but. still
Absolutely
the same
separate,
property
and when they come in for their building permit, they will have to address the woodlands issue.
Right. If it is considered a woodlands and they need to clear it.
If, right.
Big if.
Right. Yes.
They would need to go back and to get a variance for that, yes?
If they are, depending upon what they're doing and how they're situating their home, et cetera, and what trees they are planning on removing. But we did bring it to their attention. There was part of, if you recall, it was part of the discussion during the zoning hearing board. It was either a miss on their part not to apply for the variance, or it may not be necessary. We're of the opinion that it probably is necessary. So, yes, they will have, at the end of the day, they will have to comply.
Right. So if they want, but that, is that a variance? as well for Woodlands?
It would,
be,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So they would have to go back.
I
to
think
the
if
zoning hearing
if I
board for that,
recall,
And then we may have another bite at the apple.
I think if I recall, we've had a few people, when I was on the zoning board, and we were not very generous with Woodlands, because obviously, with the issues of water, those woodlands have been helping, keeping us a little drier in some of that area.
Woodlands are important for a reason, right?
So,
This isn't the last.
given that this isn't the last time that they'll have to come before a body or a board, and it doesn't sound like we have a great chance of prevailing if we appeal, I'll make the motion just to move us forward that we choose not to appeal the zoning hearing board's decision as relates to 0 Heacock Road.
Do we need to even do that, or would just not do anything?
If you do not appeal it,
Right.
the variance is requested and granted.
No, do we need a motion to not appeal? Or do you want us to? Previous years.
Well,
we
it's
did.
on the agenda, so yeah, because it's on the agenda, yes. Okay.
I have no qualms with being on the record.
Yeah.
No, just check.
Otherwise, I would say no. There are plenty of times where we've decided not to do anything, but it is an agenda item. Or yes.
What would we have to do to make sure that they get a woodlands variant? That they go through the proper?
Well, it will be a determination by township staff when they come in for their permit.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Is there a second? All right, I will do the second to move it along. All right, any questions from the board? Any more questions for that matter? Any questions from the public? All right, so the motion on hand is to not, correct?
Correct.
Appeal, okay. All right, so with that, I'll call the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I have to commend you guys anyway.
Thank you.
All right, item 13, discussion items. We have no discussion items this evening. Item 14, supervisor reports. I will go first. I do not have a report. Supervisor Lewis.
Mine's relatively short. On Monday, the Citizens Traffic Committee met, and they reviewed the transportation impact assessment for Farms Edge at Shady Brook. This is a development in Middletown Township, but requires an access road through Lower Makefield. So at that time, they reviewed the traffic study from Bowman. They made a recommendation that they suggested that it link up with Stony Hill Road as opposed to going into Township Line Road separately. They also requested that to make sure that the HOA would be responsible for ownership of the road. And they also made a third request that a certified arborist consider plantings around the roadway to improve the aesthetic appeal and help with stormwater management in a way that would not obscure driver safety. So those were the three recommendations they put on their conditional recommendation of that when they reviewed that. They also had public comment from someone who was concerned about the intersection at the point. So they will be following up with probably Chief Kelly on that.
Okay.
Do some just preliminary analysis of traffic issues on that. It's a very difficult intersection. Everyone knows that. So those were the key findings from that. That's the only report I have this evening.
Thank you. Supervisor Coyle.
Two items to really bring up tonight. The first is that our good friends at the Patterson Farm Master Plan Implementation Committee are hard at work moving forward with investigating recommendations for how we can best use all the various funds that have been obligated this year, both through the township and through grant money. So I thank them for their continued efforts there. We also had some feedback from a commission this week where we had a meeting that was canceled due to a lack of agenda items. It was canceled last minute, and I think it was pretty clear looking backwards that we would have known with the cutoffs to submit things to agenda items that we could have canceled that meeting a couple of days prior. And there was a general sentiment that volunteers would appreciate it if we could be a bit more proactive across all of our commissions and boards in really making sure that we need them to set that time aside. I think that's some valuable feedback. I don't want to name the individual in case they didn't want to be called out in front of everyone, but I do thank them for the feedback. And Dave, I hope that you can make a recommendation to the board in the future.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, we can, I don't know that it needs a recommendation back to the board other than just us being more mindful about that issue as we proceed forward and making sure that.
I want to make sure that staff aren't keeping things open in case a board member says, hey, let's do this tonight or whatever, right? So that's.
Sure. I can look into that specific issue and that specific meeting in terms of, but generally we do operate with cutoffs. So the ability to communicate that there is no pending agenda items for consideration, we should be in a position to do that prior to the day of a meeting. So.
And my experience on planning was similar. There were a number of incidents where we would be expecting the agenda that day and it goes, hey, there's nothing on the agenda. So anyways, but thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think we need to drag unless Dan, you had some.
No, the only thing I would say, like, groups like, especially planning and zoning, right? They're always like, what's going to be on the agenda? Are they asking for a continuance? Are they going to do this? Not quite the day of, but pretty close. You
Sure.
Things change.
Yep.
And those are ones that have to meet.
Yep.
And they're on their toes, right? Because we're both very familiar with those. We have to stay on our toes too to see what's going to happen. So those are tough sometimes. We need our applicants to communicate things. The other boards and committees, there's more flex. I think historically there's been more flex. So like, we have a lot of committees that just don't have much to talk about. So they're like, yeah, we don't need a meeting. For those committees, that's not necessarily they kind of provide guidance back to us about whether or not they need to meet if we're not giving them stuff to review. But I think planning and zoning especially are tough. All the other ones, or most of the other ones,
I think the feedback was that mechanism you just described, where they provide the feedback to us as to whether or not they need to meet, that maybe that's not clear on all of our commissions. And I think folks are they're expecting that we'll have an agenda unless we say otherwise. So I just think we can take a general sense and maybe proactively reach out to all of our commission chairs and vice chairs and let them know, like, hey, you have an active voice in checking in, and do we have something to discuss 3-4 days in advance?
Yeah, most of the ones I've ever
Cool.
done that. So, yeah.
Thank you. And I'm going to jump into other business for half a second, even though I shouldn't. I just want to thank all the members of the board for canceling the Shabbat meeting. I know you could have conducted business without Judy and I there, but I genuinely appreciate you guys making Passover. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Passover meeting. It's late, but thank you very much.
This now
thank
makes
you.
me eligible to be invited to any Passover Seder.
Mr. Lewis, consider yourself invited to the Coyle Passover Seder.
This year, I'm not having our normal Seders, but you'd want to be at ours. They're interesting.
All right, Supervisor Reese, your report?
Yes, Golf Committee, you heard some of the things on their agenda. They have a meeting Monday night, which it looks like it's going to be a very packed meeting with, and I will bring that to our next meeting. Parks and Rec met, and the seniors representative was at Parks and Rec. Of course, the seniors are looking for more space. Unfortunately, I can't wiggle my nose like Samantha on Bewitched and put another room onto the community center. But we did make some suggestions that this room is available during the days. Parks and Rec also made the request that the board be more engaged with them. Mercer Airport also meets next week.
All right, thank you. And Supervisor Grenier?
Sure. We heard a lot about zoning hearing board. The only thing I would add on zoning hearing board is the next couple of meetings, April 7th and 21st, will be very active. So keep an eye out for agendas. And just another reminder, I know we've been trying to remind folks of this, but if you have an issue that you want to express with any item on the zoning hearing board agenda, know that we are separate entities. Zoning hearing board is a quasi-judicial entity that makes their own votes and approves things separately from us. So it's very important that if you want to have your opinion heard, that you go to those meetings. It's great that you send us emails and everything else. Let this Board of Supervisors know. That informs us as whether or not we may want to oppose something or appeal something to the Court of Common Pleas at some point, but it does not impact the Zoning Hearing Board. I'm the liaison to the Zoning Hearing Board. I don't speak during those meetings, so I can't share your opinions with them. That's not what I'm allowed to do, nor is our solicitor can maybe reference stuff, but it doesn't get stuff on the official record per se. So it's very, very important that if you have an opinion or you want status, potentially in the future, to attend those meetings and make your voice heard. The only other thing I would say...
Dan, if I could just interrupt. We do intend to, I know you've been mentioning this, we've been mentioning this at these meetings. We do intend to do some general education around that issue. So I know Kelly, for example, is working on an article for one of the next newsletters that touches on that issue to make sure that people have an understanding of sort of where jurisdiction lies and where they should be addressing those concerns. So I just wanted to let you know we are going to follow up on that as well.
The more we can touch those bases, the better, I think, just to remind people. Emergency management, I think we probably have a meeting coming up, not immediately, but we've been looking to schedule that. And then the last one, John, I guess I'll remind people of our steering committee meeting. I'll call it the Stony Hill and Edgewood Village Area Planning and Zoning Steering Committee. It's a mouthful. Met again, and to look at our vision statement for the corridor in the region, and I think it's getting a lot of excellent feedback, a lot of good interaction about what we are looking to do in the future in that area, and we're starting to engage stakeholder groups to get. It's not just the handful of people on the committee and our consultant doing this. We're meeting with stakeholders to get everyone's ideas, thoughts, and opinions on this so we can, we're going to get a lot of good ideas, so we want to incorporate all these things. So that's ongoing over the next several months, but it's definitely moving forward. So more to come on that. That's it for me.
All right, thank you. All right, item 15, other business. We don't have any other business this evening. Item 16, appointments, reappointments to boards and commissions. I don't think we have any this evening. All right, moving on from that. Item 17, additional public comment on any non-agenda items. Does anybody have any additional public comment? Anyone on the phone? All right, and then moving on to my favorite, item 18, adjournment. Everybody have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Thank you.